morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you. Happy Monday, everyone who's here. Thank you, Grizzlies, for tuning in. Welcome to all my mods, to all the members, to every viewer, subscriber, Patreon. Did I miss anyone? Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. I see some of you say this case haunts me. Me too. Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me so that I know that everything's going okay. In the meantime, I'm just going to put this up on the banner section here because, of course, in this case, this would be the tip line to call or the email address if you know anything. If you have any information, oh man, and there's a lot of information that we learned from these leaked transcripts, which I see from the poll. Let me actually have a look. Okay, you can hear me. That's great. Let's see what you said. Are you familiar with the leaked transcripts? 31% said yes. 39% said no, and 29% of you said just heard about them, let's learn. Okay, so there's this podcast called Murder Sheet Podcast, and I stumbled on them because I saw that all the channels that are covering the Delphi case were like, oh my word, leaked transcript. I'm like, what? Like, I couldn't believe it. Like, leaked transcripts of the interview between Kegan Kline and the Indiana State Police. And so, you know, we've got to be cautious with that because we don't want anything to affect the investigation. However, what has been shared, which is on, of course, the Murder Sheet podcast, it's on Reddit as well. You can read the transcript yourself. It's 194 pages. What has been shared, I don't believe affects the investigation negatively. I think it actually adds to the information that we already have. And I suppose it was bound to happen because, you know, everything is so hush-hush and secretive. So people are very curious. So if there's any chance of anything leaking or coming out, we're all going to jump on it. Now, the thing is, I'm not going to be reading through this transcript because, as I said in my trailer, if you saw that, I don't want to feed the beast. There are people who are monsters who are into this kind of stuff. And they will listen just to hear someone read out the conversations that someone like Kegan Kline had with children, and we don't want that. So I'm not going to be adding to that. That is why I'm already like, it makes me anxious just thinking about, I've had to listen to it a few times now, and I've read through the whole document myself, and it's quite terrible. Hello to the Pranzos. Welcome. If you're buffering, just check your connection. Oh, you love the background. Thank you. Welcome. Hello, Claire. Is there absolute proof? That's the thing. Never. There's never absolute proof that we know of because we're just the public, right? And we don't even know that there's absolute proof that these are the transcripts, but they sure seem to be. So if you just search on Reddit, we do have a Grizzly Reddit community as well. But if you search on Reddit, you will find these transcripts. Be careful with them, though, because we don't want to share those conversations everywhere. Annette says, hello, all my fellow Grizzlies. Great to be here. Hello to you, Gisela. You're always so wonderful. Love to watch your episodes. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you so much. Yeah, you're like, oh my word. Okay, so if you want to, I would highly recommend checking out Murder Sheet Podcast. I've linked their episodes in the description box, and I'll link them in the comments afterwards. The first thing I would recommend is listening to the episode they did, which is linked, that tells you how they got hold of these documents. And then the second link I put in for their podcast is part 1 and 2, where they literally read through the transcript, and, you know, the lady is being one voice and the guy is being Kegan Kline. So it's very realistic. When you listen to it, you're like, whoa, they actually did really, really well. So yes, coming in loud and clear. Okay, I wasn't sure if my mic is a little bit quiet. Anyway, as usual, I've got all my notes. I say, oh my word, all the time now. Oh my word. Okay. Me too. Trying Rooibos tea right now. That's awesome. Yes, Rooibos tea is the bomb. Rooibos tea is from South Africa, and it is caffeine free, and it's delicious. You get different flavors as well. Okay, so shall we get started? My word. Does anyone want a recap on this case? Hold on. I'll just bring this across quickly. My voice better comply. Don't be naughty, voice. So, on February 13th, 2017, Liberty German, age 14, and Abigail Williams, age 13, were hiking on the Delphi Historic Trail near the Monon High Bridge, just east of Delphi in Carroll County, Indiana. Liberty and Abigail were reported missing to police after their parents were unable to locate them at the pickup location. Volunteers subsequently discovered the girls' bodies in the woods east of Delphi in Carroll County, Indiana, on February 14th, 2017. Now, investigators have distributed, I'm reading from the FBI side, right? They've distributed a photo. As we know, this photo, the sketches are of Bridge Guy, of a person observed on the Delphi Historic Trail. The photo appears to depict a white male wearing blue jeans, a blue coat or jacket, and a hoodie. During the course of the investigation, evidence has led investigators to believe the aforementioned person is suspected of being involved in the murders of Liberty German and Abigail Williams. So anyone with information is requested to call the tip line 765-8228, 3535, or submit tips at abbyandlibbytip@cacoshrf.com. All information will be taken and followed up on by investigators. Callers can remain anonymous, and you may also contact your local FBI office or the nearest American embassy or consulate. Now, what I find interesting is that they've updated, let me put it on this side again. I'll show you. They've updated the flyer, and they've taken out the height and everything that they had before. Isn't that interesting? So let's go to this one. So previously you could see they had place of birth. Oh, this was for, this was for Libby German. Oh, okay, I couldn't find the old flyer now. Okay, I had this one open. Hold on 1 second. But they took out the height description and everything else except for white male. So they've really, I would say, broadened the search even more. And then, as you know, if you've been following the case, if you haven't, if you're brand new and you're like, what is this lady talking about? I have a whole playlist. Okay, so if you go to the home page of my channel, there's home, videos, and playlist. And if you go there and scroll the playlist, you can binge watch all my Delphi episodes. So I did a collaboration as well with Stephen Keogh, former Scotland Yard, where we also discussed some of that. I just wanted to see if I could find that old flyer. Can't see it now. But yeah, I just find it so interesting how they've taken out a whole bunch of the descriptions. Now it's just white male is what they're looking for. Very interesting. Is this the one the girls recorded? Yeah, this case is the one where one of the girls on the bridge actually recorded the guy walking towards them on the bridge. That's known as Bridge Guy. And that was apparently timestamped at 2:17 p.m. on the day. And now what we're looking at today is, I've made a summary through my own notes here instead of reading through the transcript of what I learned from it that I want to share with you. The information kind of summarized. That's kind of what I do here. Sometimes, you know, I love documents, so I would love to read documents, except in this case, I don't want to read through this. It's very triggering. So this is a true crime channel. Trigger warning, this content is for adults only. It is very upsetting, and this obviously involves the murders of 2 children, and it's unsolved for over 5 years now. Man. And it's just like the biggest mystery. But I'm starting to understand by going through these transcripts. They interviewed this guy called Kegan Kline. So I'm just going to recap for anyone who doesn't know. They interviewed this guy called Kegan Kline because he was found to be linked to an Instagram profile known as Anthony Shots. Now, he had never been linked to this Delphi case before until last year, where they literally said anyone who's been in contact with the Anthony Shots profile, please contact. And then they gave these contact details here. The Abby and Libby email address, the Abby and Libby phone number. So it's like, oh, there's a link. That was interesting. Now, what we find out more, which I'm going to go through all my notes here, is that this Anthony Shots profile actually communicated with Libby and a friend, apparently. And I don't think the friend, from what I'm hearing, is Abby, but Libby and a friend, they were communicating specifically, let's focus on Libby, even on the day that she was murdered, and was supposed to meet up with her. So this profile could be linked to a whole ring of people. I've said that before, and it seems much more evident now that it really is linked to someone that's kind of using Kegan Kline, I think I'm going to say Kegan Kline. I see some people say Kegan, but I think he himself said Kegan Kline. Okay. Some people were maybe using him as like a pawn, and he's like the bait. That's what it feels like. However, I mean, whoa, he could also just completely fit the profile. He's currently in jail for so many CP charges. Let's just make sure the chat, I'm sure the mods are also checking. We mustn't be graphic, okay, with this stuff involving children. My word, it's very upsetting. He's got so many CP charges that he's facing, and now with this Anthony Shots profile being linked to Kegan Kline, and this profile communicating with Libby on the day she was murdered and before. Whew. Oh man. Does anyone remember the date of this interview? The date was August 19th, 2020. And his voice also sounds like the cell phone recording. Yeah, when the guy's down the hill, right? Yeah, so this could be, I mean, when we just look at him, you can't just look at someone and know what they did or did not do. But when we just look at him, I just can't imagine that someone like him did this, you know? However, the more that I've read through these transcripts, I'm like, he could be, or there's someone very sinister surrounding him, behind him, living in the house, all this kind of stuff. So we're going to go through it, okay? Wiggle over that like button, caterpillars. Oh, man. Unbelievable that Libby can take a video with sound and it's still not solved. I know, right? There's like a picture, there's sketches, there's audio. So there's audio, there's video. And it remains unsolved in such a small community. I mean, it's absolutely upsetting at this point. It must be so frustrating, you know, for the police working this case. Oh, man, this must be a very, very frustrating case to try to solve. I just think that it's difficult because I think it's multiple people, at least two, or I'm still under the impression that it's like a ring that they're about to bust. They might be busting, you know, a whole CP ring wide open, because right off the bat, from part 1 in the Murder Sheet podcast, they say the police actually told Kegan Kline that this has kind of triggered Indiana's largest CP investigation. Now, I like how in the podcast they actually refer to CP, which I'm sure you guys know what that is, as now I'm going to say YouTube trigger words and trigger words. So here we go: child SA and exploitation. Okay, I find that very appropriate to say child SA and exploitation rather than CP, because CP sounds like, I don't know, it just sounds like something a whole bunch of people have and would want. But if you just call it what it is, which is child SA and exploitation, yeah, I think that's what it should be called instead of CP. What do you think? No, this is not what it means. It means child and then P's for another word. Thank you, Caterpillar. Sounds like they consented to it too. We are not afraid of words. Number 1, we don't want to trigger anyone, because many of us in this community have actually experienced CP, SA, and horrible traumas, so we are sensitive to that. But also, if we play by the rules of YouTube, we don't want to say triggering words for the YouTube bots, otherwise they minimize the reach of this video, they flag the video, it doesn't go anywhere. So that is why we want this information to spread as much as possible. So if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, commenting below, and subscribing if you haven't yet. And then also, if you could share it either with a clip or share the episode, that also helps, because oftentimes with these types of topics, I mean, the video doesn't go too far because it's got lots of words in it that YouTube is like, this is not family friendly. Anyway, so it's absolutely nutty that despite the perp being caught on camera speaking and more we don't even know of, there's still no answers who murdered Abby and Libby. I know, right? I really hope that we see the day that they catch this guy. I really, absolutely hope that this case will be solved. Right? Libby's grandmother, every single day on Twitter, shares, "Today is the day." Every day. Yeah, someone, somewhere must recognize Bridge Guy or his voice. Okay, so I'm just going to read through some of my notes here. So the interview took place on August 19th, 2020. It was Detective Vito and Deputy Clinton interviewing Kegan Kline. And in it, these are my notes. It's Indiana's largest CP investigation has been triggered. Child SA and exploitation. in June 2017, remember these murders happened in February of 2017, Kegan says he moved to Las Vegas. He says he had an apartment there. He says he moved out there with a friend. He sold medical marijuana in Vegas and did a whole bunch of other stuff. We don't know exactly what else he did. He says he stayed from June 2017 for about a year until August or September 2018. He then married his mother, and that sentence might sound weird, but he actually is an ordained minister. So I found that very interesting, because when we were all speculating what kind of profile would a killer like this have, which seems to have serial killer vibes, but maybe not, if connected to the Evansdale murders at all, which we've speculated before, it's all in the playlist. But we were saying it could be someone that works at like a meat packing plant. It could be someone that's a minister. It could be a teacher, someone that works at the school and all this kind of stuff. But like, he's an ordained minister. So there's already an interesting little element. Yeah, he performed the ceremony. Exactly. Thank you for clarifying. He did not actually marry his mother. He performed the ceremony. Okay. And then he said that his stepdad works on a hog farm. I found that interesting too. He stayed with his mom in Young America, which was it is a community that is a 25-minute drive from Delphi. Then he stayed with friends and girlfriends. Now, the question is, why didn't he not stay with his dad at that point? So it's kind of like he went to Vegas with his dad. And while he was in Vegas, by the way, he was doing quite the Google search. He was literally searching for the Delphi murders, foul play suspected, and he even searched on Google, how long does DNA last? I mean, okay, let's just throw up my red flag, shall we? You want to go to Vegas on vacation being like, I have no idea. It was just this random girl that I was talking to. I talked to like hundreds of girls with these fake profiles, which I'm sure he did, unfortunately. But then you go to Vegas with your dad on like a vacation, and then you're like moving around, living with friends, doing your thing, but you're researching constantly. He researched Delphi murder investigation, Delphi murders foul play suspected. You know, like he kept up with the investigation. That was very, very interesting. So, anyway, moving on, we'll get more into that. He also said that he did graphic design, and just note that the way he did graphic design was by completely ripping people off, because he would charge to make like restaurant menus and things, but he would use Canva on his phone. Canva on your phone? Whoa, dude. I don't know. That's a loophole and a half. Like, whoa. It's not quite graphic design, you know? Anyway. Yeah, Canva. Kegan seems to avoid mentioning his dad at all costs. Now, I find that so interesting. He doesn't even mention his name. He doesn't even say my dad or dad. He just says he. He refers to him as he. Very, very distancing language in that entire interview, which is actually quite a skill. He doesn't want to talk about his dad at all. And I honestly think if we look at his dad's history, which they mentioned a little bit in these transcripts, he has a violent temper. He's been violent towards children before, the dad, Tony Kline, who people are now suspecting is Bridge Guy. Okay, I'm just going to, spoiler alert, that's kind of the jump people are making. Of course, we don't know that it is. We can't really say that it is. We can't dox the dude, but people are kind of saying, whoa, like there's a red flag. It could be Tony Kline. Tony Kline has been violent with children before. One time he actually, he took a child and he was angry because the toilet was overflowing and the child called for help, and he was so angry that he smashed his head on the toilet and broke a, what do they call it? A socket in his eye, like his eye socket. And was so angry, like was so violent towards this child who just actually needed help. So that shows, that's a red flag for his profile, shall we call it. So I think that Kegan Kline obviously must have, I'm just drawing conclusions, I'm speculating, but with a dad like that, he must have gone through a whole bunch of stuff himself with him. Maybe he's absolutely terrified of him at this point. Okay, let's just see what you guys are saying. Yeah, very cold and detached, right? Canva is free use, of course, but I wouldn't design something on Canva and then charge someone money for what I made. I don't know, that feels weird. Look what I made. I don't know. Yes, we love 1.5 speed. If anyone's just tuning in now. How long does DNA last? He literally searched how long does DNA last? And we'll get to that again because it's part of my notes at the end there. However, when the police asked, well, why would you search that? He's like, because he was worried. His explanation is, well, if the DNA doesn't last very long on the bodies of the victims, then he's worried that they're going to pin the murders on him because now they don't have DNA anymore. I mean, have you ever heard of an argument like that? You say, Gisela always delivers the tea. 7 days of tea. Yeah, I'm bringing the tea as gently as possible. I feel like if there was a true connection between Kegan and Libby's Snapchat, they have already arrested him in connection legally. No, but the thing is that they have already arrested him for all kinds of CP and stuff, except I do think they've proven that at least 2 people used Kegan's devices, Snapchat profile, Instagram profile, Kik profile. Someone else was using his accounts. Now, how are they gonna catch that guy? Yes, exactly. Okay. So, we continue. He said that his father's a mechanic guy, okay? But later, Kegan said he knows nothing about cars. Nothing. Even though the Anthony Shots profile was all bragging about the Lamborghinis he had, the Ferraris, the whatever, he says he knows nothing about cars. But he did say that he doesn't know anything about cars, but his dad's a mechanic guy. I would think then he knows a little thing or two about cars. Not that that's relevant really to the case. I'm just saying. It just shows you can lie quite a lot. Pops and Moo Mafia says, yikes, I'm so behind on this case. Don't worry, you can catch right up. I've got an entire playlist for you with a whole timeline, like literally everything in it. Made presentations for you. You guys remember that? Okay. Now, he said he made up the name Emily Ann, but did you guys not remember in the beginning when they talked about this profile, Emily Ann, that Kegan said it was his stepsister? It was her name. But now in this interview, which was in 2020, he was saying, nope, just made that name up completely. Like, literally just made it up. I think it was his stepdad, though. Kegan said if he flipped on his dad, his charges would have been dropped. Don't know if that's true. Interesting. Didn't hear that anyway. They know, okay, wait, how do they know someone else was using his account? They said there was different phraseology, different punctuation, possibly even different locations with 2 devices logging into the account at the same time. So, yes. I don't think he was worried for his dad. I think he's scared of his dad, in my opinion. Yeah, he was pretending to be a girl to chat to underage girls. Exactly. What he was doing with this Emily Ann profile was talking to underage girls on Instagram, Snapchat, Kik. What else did he use? We'll go through all of it. But yes, and he was saying like, I don't know why. Shame. I feel sorry for all these teenage girls. They don't know what kind of monsters behind the screen, you know. But to think that Emily Ann was saying, ooh, can you show me a picture because I want to show my dad, or like, you know, my dad's asking this and this, like that's just it's so dark, huh? Wow. Yeah, he's definitely covering up for his dad. It definitely feels that way, 100%. To me, the way he talks in these interviews, wow. I just mean the transcripts. It's just like what he actually said. He's like, wow, you're really covering up for your dad, huh? He said he did have a Dropbox, okay? And images were being shared, of course. They were making quite the stash on this Dropbox. But he said he didn't have one. And then later he said, oh yeah, no, I had one, but not for pictures. But from the Dropbox link alone, they say it was the biggest CP ring investigated, like that has ever been investigated now in Indiana, just from the Dropbox link. But he was very defensive about that Dropbox thing. Like, I've never used it for any images or anything. Which again, then they're like, who did it? Who did it? And then he blames friend number 1. They don't want to name the friend, of course not. They don't want to dox him or leak that online. But that's why these are redacted transcripts. But He just says, no, that's friend one. It must be friend one. So he's willing to throw friend one under the bus completely of like, no, he must have accessed the Dropbox. Like, really? How does that even make sense? And the timeline doesn't match at all. When he was actually staying with friend one and then returning to Indiana and then staying with his dad, the timeline only matches when he's staying with his dad, when all these devices are being used together from two people at least. So while there are many online personas that Kegan uses, it seems evident to investigators that there are two people, and they didn't say at least two people, they actually said that there are two people accessing the profile at the same time. Different phraseology, different punctuation. The time that the devices were being accessed by two people is the exact same time period when he lived with his dad in Peru. Kegan says he used to take PCP, LCD, mushrooms, and a whole lot of other stuff. So he said he was very, very drugged up. Okay, JC said you can read a lot from the writing style. It's pretty interesting to see comparisons between writings to determine if it's the same person writing. Yeah, and it must have been quite different for them to absolutely know. They're like, this is 100% two different people. Yeah. Cheryl was like, thank you for being up so late. It's my pleasure. Is there a picture of the dad? There is a picture of the dad. I can show you guys just now. I had it on the thumbnail there. Wait, actually, hold on. I'll bring it up. Just hold on 1 second. If I do this. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. Okay. Here we go. There we go. So now you can see it. Okay, so on the left-hand side is the dad. And I do think it's interesting that they say that, you know, with the sketches and the way that they describe the perp, that they say they would look a lot younger than what they are. I mean, interesting, right? We don't know exactly what height BG is, and with the updated FBI flyer, they've taken off the height. They say the height is no longer relevant, which is also interesting. Yeah, it is a small town in the US, yep. I'm just letting you guys see the picture for a bit, okay? All right, so you got it? And I'm back. All right, so thriving and beyond. Is the dad now implicated in the crimes? Only speculatively. We don't know. It just really seems that way. It really seems that way. Daddy-O could be BG. Okay, so Kegan Kline says that the police told him he failed a polygraph and that they believe him or his father committed the Delphi murders. So that's what's interesting about these transcripts is they're like grilling this guy and they're literally like, we absolutely believe that you or your dad did this. See, we have never known that. That information wasn't really out there. There's been so many suspects in this case, you know, and so many comparisons made with the sketch and all this. However, to think that the police are grilling him in that moment and saying, yep, we believe it's either you or your dad. Also, with the polygraph test that he says he took and failed, the point at which they found deception, well, obviously there were a few of them, but one of them, the main ones they focus on, is when they asked him, do you know who was involved in the murders of Abby and Libby? He says, nope. And there's deception detected. They asked him twice, and both times he failed that part of the polygraph test. So that's very interesting. I don't think I found any videos of the dad talking. That would be so interesting. So Grizzlies, that's the challenge. If you want to scour the internet and find videos of him talking, that could be quite interesting, actually. I think they have Kegan Kline talking to his dad on the jail phone. His dad trying to figure out what the cops know. I think that's why the press conference says, we know you want to know what we know. You think like me, because I'm also just like the whole day, like, we know. Every time, with every line of this transcript that I read, I'm like, oh, we know, you know, they might, it just sounds like, whoa, if it's a whole ring of people, or if it's Kegan Kline's dad, and they really just can't pin this on him because he's used everyone else as like the front line. Damn, like, then I would understand. Oh man, I know a whole lot of guys who fit the general description, as in you can see them at any convenience store near a workplace with blue-collar workers. According to him, he never took a polygraph. Well, according to the transcripts, he did. That's what's interesting. These ones from August 19th, 2020, and he was already interviewed right after the murders, 2 weeks after. He says he did. So you see, but he's let's just put that disclaimer out there. This dude lies like a fly. I don't know how a fly lies, but that's the saying, right? Lie like a fly. He lies a lot. I even wrote here, that's my next sentence. Note, Kegan has a pattern of lying. Thank you, Harriet Manning, for your $5 super sticker. I don't think polygraph tests are very accurate, and they're definitely not used in a court of law, am I right? It's just interesting where the deception was marked, you know? So, yeah, Kegan pins all of the other chats on friend 1. It seems more like his dad. He did also, oh no, this is just, I'll just say it quick. On top of looking for all these horrible things relating to children, he also, exploiting children, looked up some animal stuff. That's quite hectic. He says he never did that. But again, was it your dad then or what? It just seems to me like the dad is far more sinister than Kegan. Now, Tony Kline, the dad's Skype and email were also on the devices. See? That's interesting. That already is like some proof, pretty solid proof that they shared a whole bunch of stuff. Because if his dad, he's like, no, my dad wasn't using my apps or my devices, but yet he was. However, to say that his dad's Skype and email was also logged in on his devices is interesting. Now, here's another one. When he was doing a whole bunch of searches, this was now not just in Vegas, this was over the years, because this is a pattern for years. It's not just like he quickly searched a few pictures. This is a pattern with him and his dad searching the stuff for years. They also went to brothels together. So that's an interesting father-son relationship, I think. And it's not like one time or something like, oh yeah, I don't know. It's not like if someone wants to play this off and say, oh, it could be like a bachelor party vibe. No. They went to brothels together, which is just strange to do regularly with your son. But he was researching a whole bunch of CP stuff. Now, I'm not going to say those phrases. It is in the transcripts, what he was searching for. But, you know, specific ages. I mean, you know, like looking for specific ages. That to me was quite shocking. Like to really detail that. Anyway, but in between all of that, he researched photos of Sandy Hook bodies. That is interesting. And Kegan Kline absolutely defended himself. They're like, no, why is that in there? I would never search that. I didn't search that. Then it's like, well, why is it in there? He's like, I don't know. See, if that's the dad. Yeah, whoa, these two are close. It's very strange to do that as father and son, that's for sure. Seems like Kegan and the ring of yes is separate from what happened to the girls. There's no purpose killing them. This serves. Well, there is, if you think of them looking up CP and then looking up photos of Sandy Hook bodies. I mean, those victims were what, age 7 to 9 or something? And looking up in between. So like searching for a whole bunch of CP, then photos of Sandy Hook bodies, then more CP. It's all in that psychology, whoever was searching for that. Yeah, they were definitely into looking at children who were violently murdered as part of their exploring their sexuality, shall I say. And so if you think of that, then of course there would be, unfortunately, high value in these disgusting rings in taking footage of something like, speculatively, the crime scene in Delphi. Do you know what I'm saying? And if you think about what Superintendent Dakota said of like the way that they left those girls, like they are not that way beyond their death. He's like very upset about that, remember? So if we think about that, yeah, I do think I think that him researching CP and photos of Sandy Hook bodies is a big red flag. Where'd my red flag go? I gotta put it back up. This whole thing's a red flag. Okay, so Coastal Butterfly, it's true the girls can both be catfished and killed by separate people, but the CP and Sandy Hook bodies got them interested in moving beyond just CP images. Exactly. And The other thing is, there was a friend that Kegan Kline was communicating with through the Anthony Shots profile. Now, when we say friend, it's a girl that he went to school with. She was younger than him, so like he was in his final year of school. She was a freshman. Is that what you call it, right? In America? Just started high school. And he kind of in his mind stalking her, shall we say. Cyber stalking, shall we say. And then made this Anthony Shots profile and was communicating with her through this profile as well. But he actually knew where she lived. And in just communicating with the Anthony Shots profile, what happened was that this girl who was talking to Anthony Shots and kind of wanting to meet up with him ended up having a man, an older man, in a ski mask peering through her window, which freaked her the heck out, of course. But you see, if you look at that they can both be catfished, it does seem to me like Kegan Kline is the catfish, that he makes all these profiles and everything. I mean, he uses his Canva skills and that there's more sinister people behind him that use that network that he's got going on. Yeah, big red flag. Welcome to Sue M. That was frightening when I heard that. It was. All right. Imagine if Dharma had access. I feel like if Dharma was alive today, he might not have ended up like he was. I don't know. I'm just saying, with all the stuff he can buy today, I mean, okay, side note, we're looking at Dharma for a second. He stole a mannequin from a store. Like, okay, so can you imagine all the stuff that he could buy today? I don't know. I feel like, but yeah, still, imagine if someone like that, if they had Tinder or Grindr or whatever. So, if we continue, for me, the biggest shocker was, them looking up CP and photos of Sandy Hook bodies. I mean, that specific search term is very disturbing. Yes, so they said, so whoever searched this thought that images of violently killed children would be sexually exciting. He deleted Me Time. He deleted Meet Me, Snapchat, and etc., of course, as soon as the girls were murdered. He deleted those apps and factory reset his phone. Okay. The one sentence that I caught there that they said in the transcript was, when the prosecutor goes through all of this. Now, of course, that can be related to all the charges he's already facing. But they were kind of implying that when the prosecutor goes through all of this, it's kind of like 1 + 1 = 2 type thing. Like literally, dude, you need to start talking because you're looking very, very guilty. But to me, it seems like he would take the fall for his dad. That's what I'm gathering. I hope not, because then this case will not fully be solved, where there won't be proper justice. He's also said, I'm like the least most violent person. See, I kind of believe it. He doesn't seem like it. I can't judge that just by looking at a picture of him or something. I just worry about the dad. Let's look at him again. Huh? I don't know. Again, mere speculation. For entertainment purposes only. I'm just red flagging it a little bit. Okay. There's a photo of Tony Kline at the 2019 presser. I saw it on a YouTube video made by someone using a GH name. Damn. Okay. I think friend 1 is unrelated. Someone to draw their attention away from the real bad guys. I agree. All right. So Anthony Shots was supposed to meet up, that profile was supposed to meet up with Libby on the day that she was murdered. See, we didn't know that before. We speculated that, because they liked each other's pictures and they were obviously communicating, maybe it could be a catfish situation. However, to know now that they have proof from the messages and everything that Anthony Shots was supposed to meet up with Libby on the day that she was murdered. Okay, now how do they know that? Because guess what? When a friend messaged the Anthony Shots profile and said, did you hear what happened basically to Libby and Abby? He said, oh no, what happened? And then he said, I was supposed to meet up with her, but she never showed up. Lol. Wow. So Okay, we talked about the man in the window. Anthony Schotz spoke to Libby and her friend on several occasions. That's another thing I learned. He planned to meet up with Libby on the day that she was murdered. Kegan and his dad traveled to Las Vegas shortly after the murders. And yes, Kegan was researching, which we've gone through already. Including phrases like foul play suspected. Then these are some statements I wrote down as they said it. They said, your dad is Facebook friends with some of Abby's mother's friends. Now, I know that this is a very small community. And I mean, Facebook, damn, you could connect everyone with everyone. But it is interesting that Tony Kline is friends with some of Abby's mother's friends on Facebook. And Kegan's current girlfriend, which I'm like, he has a girlfriend? That was in 2020. Your current girlfriend is Facebook friends with an ex, with one of Libby's ex-boyfriends. So there's two links. That's interesting, right? That Tony Kline's is Facebook friends with some of Abby's mother's friends, and Kegan's current girlfriend is Facebook friends with one of Libby's ex-boyfriends. It's quite hectic. You say Tony's a monster. Do you know more? Do you know more? Contact the tip line right here. My word. Okay. So here they also said that Libby was being groomed by Anthony Schotz. They said Libby was enthralled with Anthony Schotz and told a friend that she wanted to meet up with him. And then I had to listen to this like 4 times. I was like, wait, what? I kept going back and I'm like, again? They said they have grooming pictures. So they've got proof that Libby was being groomed. And then they said, and I put this in inverted commas, the Anthony Schotz money account was going to her. So it seems like they may have even had something like a Cash App or a Venmo. Some of you guys ask, well, I don't have that because you don't have that in Europe. That's why. But like a Cash App or a Venmo may have been connected to this Anthony Schotz profile. Something to do with transferring money really easily. So the grooming was real, severe. Maybe being like, if you send me a picture of this, I'll give you whatever it would be. I don't know. Wow. They refer to the messages as Kik, Messenger, and all these My Daddy references. There were multiple account logins with Snapchat, and there were definitely 2 different people, they say, on Kik Messenger. He also sent Snapchats to Libby, even after knowing that she had died, because he was in Vegas researching all the stuff of the murders, Delphi murders, foul play suspected, Delphi murders, suspect, Delphi, all the stuff. But in between, he was still sending Libby Snapchat messages. Now, he says, well, he used to just bulk send out like 40 to 50 messages to everyone. So it could be that, depending on what he actually said. But I think that would also be a way to cover up. Don't you think? Yeah, this is hectic. He was, searching the Delphi murder news while on vacation is how they put it. So again, they reiterated that they said, you failed the polygraph, deleted Snapchat, deleted Instagram, the 2 definite apps which you were using to communicate with Libby, and then searched, how long does DNA last? So when they summarized it like that, I'm like, whoa, like you failed the polygraph, deleted Snapchat, deleted Instagram, and then searched, how long does DNA last? He said that on the day that they were murdered, he went to his grandparents' house from 12 until 3. Now, I also find that interesting because it's very specific. It's not like, oh, yeah, we went there in the afternoon for some apple pie. He's like, no, from 12 to 3. We went to my grandparents' house. And we, meaning him and his dad, his phone pinged near his grandparents' house, but not at their house. Of course, we know that phone pinging is quite broad. I mean, when they looked up Libby's phone pings and all these... the pinging that they were looking up, it's like the whole of Delphi because it's such a small community. But here they said his phone pinged near his grandparents' house, but not at their house. And then he said, well, from 12 to 3 it was then he went right back home. So what if he did go? What if that's part truth? What if he didn't go to his grandparents' house based on what they say they know about the cell phone data. However, what if he dropped his dad off, near the bridge. We need to talk to the grandparents to know if he actually went there on that day. But I don't know. It's quite long ago. Hey, would they remember now? Interesting, though. Yeah. This is also... I feel like when he said down the hill, he was leading them to what the girls thought was Anthony's shots. Me too. That could be very, very possible. He put himself with his dad on the day of the crime? I'm so suspect. Yeah, he put himself with his dad on the day of the crime. And from 12 to 3, I mean, whoa, like that's quite close to the time. I mean, the girls were on the bridge at 2:17 p.m. filming Bridge Guy. So from 12 to 3 is like quite a specific time to name, even though the rest of the interview is like doesn't remember anything. The police believe that Kegan knows who murdered the girls. They say they absolutely believe that he knows who murdered the girls. And then we talked about Tony Kline had been violent with a child in the past. Oh, yeah, we've got the correct terminology. There was an overflowing toilet. The kid asked for help. Tony got very upset, and he broke the kid's orbital socket by smashing his head on the toilet. Wow. And then they asked Kegan what... They actually just said, yeah, we were working this case where this guy smashed this kid's head on the toilet because it was overflowing. Now, what do you think someone like that should be charged with? And he's like, well, they should be put to death, is what he said, because someone who does that is capable of anything. Like, he didn't know clearly that was his dad they were referring to, but that was his dad that they were referring to. And he was like, whoa, someone like that. He's like, well, obviously he should be put to death for murdering that child. So Kegan in his own mind jumped from the story to murder, and then they said, no, the child survived. And he's like, oh, okay, well, in any case, he should be put away or put to death because he intended to murder a child. Oh, okay. Yes, I agree, except that they were just seeing how he would react. Obviously, him not knowing. They were talking about his own dad. Wow. Which to me shows there must be a huge history of violence in Kegan's background. There's no excuse for what he does, not at all. But yeah. They say that he talked to her right before she died. The Anthony Shots profile talked to Libby. The wording they used was right before she died. It's not like on the day in the morning. They say right before she died. That's why I've always gone with the catfishing theory. There's lots of theories, but like catfishing, if that's what it is, then yeah, that would make sense. That they're like, oh, so excited, we're going to meet Anthony Shots. And he's probably like, literally like, I'm on my way. I'm about to cross the bridge. And when they see who Bridge Guy actually is, it must have scared the crap out of them. Kegan and Tony went to brothels together, already said. And Tony has a short temper and has been violent with a child in the past. So let's see. Was that everything that I wrote? I think that's everything. I think I covered it. Let's just see. Yeah. So what do you guys think? Let's say boiling the water. Okay. Yeah, Tony has a knee problem or some injury, I believe. And it does to me look like, I mean, my stepdad had a knee problem, and the way that Bridge Guy walks, I mean, yeah, from the first day I saw that, I'm like, this guy's probably got a knee problem. It's just the way he walks, you know? You can see he's probably had some knee operations or something. Yeah, I was the last to talk to her. That account is breaking the case open, right? Exactly. Red flag, red flag. Okay, now I want to show you something. Wow, time flies, huh? Let's put this up. Okay, so you guys must surely be aware, are you or not, of Emma Kenny, a YouTuber. I believe she's a psychologist. She is a TV star. She's from the UK. And she also does a lot of deep dives. And she just said so well what I would want to say. But let's hear how she says it, okay? So I'm going to keep quiet for a second and play this little bit for you here.
But he talks about how they brought to justice a particular perpetrator and saved a particular child. And it is just intoxicating and worth celebrating the commitment that those officers have to finding the bastards who are going out and causing the harm to their own children and to other children and to anonymous children in the material that they share and watch. Now, according to the Internet Watch Foundation 2021, it was the worst year on record for online child sexual abuse. I'm not being political when I say this, by the way, guys, but this is the statistics and it's evidenced as well. So this isn't me saying it. I get shit sometimes for people saying to me, oh, you mentioned lockdown, but I'm not. I'm saying the Internet Watch Foundation have found that in 2021, it was the worst record for online child sexual abuse. And they said that lockdown saw a drastic increase in online grooming because millions of young kids stayed indoors. They spent more time online. They were encouraged to be online. So therefore, they were speaking to people online and inhabiting a world that they didn't used to inhabit 24/7. And that gave predators loads of access to children that weren't schooled in these areas. And they didn't have an understanding that these dangerous perpetrators are out there. It also saw a threefold increase in online sexual abuse imagery, featuring in particular 7 to 10-year-olds. A threefold increase.
Okay, so if you didn't know, trigger warning, we all love Emma, but obviously she just says it as it is, right? Says the words, all the trigger words, all that. But it's very important what she's saying, because at the end of the day, this is why I'm saying I'm not going to read the transcript, because we'll be feeding the beast, because there's people that will literally tune in just to hear you read those conversations out between a predator and a child, and we don't want that. Okay, let's continue.
252,000 URLs containing images of or videos of children being sexually abused were compared to previous year 153,000. So that's the leap in those URLs containing those images. There were also a significant increase in self-generated material. This is where, as I said very earlier on in the video, children are actually manipulated into basically recording their own abuse, and then that gets shared online. Online abuse is occurring on an industrial scale. Make no bones.
But it really is. I mean, I'm going to put it back on now, but even if you're an adult on Instagram or Snapchat or anything, there's some weird stuff. I mean, wow, I've had to block a lot of people on Instagram. Have you? It's just so intense what actually gets thrown at you in those DMs. And it's not just females, males. My male friends on Instagram are like, whoa, the things that get thrown at them, it's equally bad. So can you imagine being a child on social media? Oh man, and it's just how the apps are. I mean, I think with TikTok, isn't the minimum age 8? Like, it's really hectic. Is it 8 or 12? I can't remember. But there's a lot of young kids on TikTok. And there's also a lot of old people on TikTok as well. And I was going to say men, but it could be men or women. And it's very, very scary. So anyway, let's continue.
About it. It is industrial. It is big billion-pound business. And these men, and they are mostly men, there are women, but they're most...
I'm so sorry for interrupting again. You say, what's her channel? It's Emma Kenny, and I will link it in the comments at the end of this. Okay. Unless one of the mods wants to share this, then feel free to do that. This was one of her latest episodes, but she is so right. She says it so well.
Men are making a fortune out of the devastation, degradation, torture, abuse, and at times murder of little girls and boys. Interpol actually analysed a random selection of videos and images from its International Child Sexual Exploitation Image and Video Database. This database is basically an intelligence and investigative tool compiled by specialised investigators, and they come from more than 64 countries. So it's very, very comprehensive. And a subsequent 2018 joint report by Interpol and ECPAT, which is the International End Child Sexual Exploitation, identified the following alarming trends together. These agencies discovered that the younger the child, the more severe the abuse. So 84% of the images contained explicit sexual activity. More than 60% of the unidentified victims were prepubescent. That's including infants and toddlers.
Oh, we just got to take a break then, take a deep breath, because that's hard to hear, huh? And on Kegan Kline's devices, there was searches for age 3 to 5. He gets really defensive when that's brought up, but that could be whoever else was using his device. But yes, that is horrendous. I mean, absolutely unthinkable. 7 Days at Sea says, did Gisela say that Anthony Shots talked to Libby on the actual day? According to the transcripts, the police said to Kegan Kline, yes, that he talked to Libby right before she was murdered. So first they said on the actual day, and then literally said right before she was murdered. And that profile told one of Libby's friends, oh, what happened to her? Because I was meant to meet up with her, but she didn't show up. Lol. Oh man, there's no lol situation there.
65% of unidentified victims were girls, and severe abuse images were likely to feature boys. So the more severe were more likely to be toward boys. 92% of the visible offenders were actually male. So the offenders who were involved in that were massively disproportionately male. Now, in the context of child pornography, many consider the viewing of images and videos to be a less serious issue. I do not. Yeah, it's a contactless crime, so they're not.
Very important moment. Contactless crime, because a lot of people, of course, sit behind the computer and say, but I didn't do anything. I didn't meet up with any children. I didn't harm anyone. It's just pictures. Well, that's feeding the beast. That's what I call it, feeding the beast. And it's just opening up a market that can just go on and on and on. You know, we got to stop that. So no, let's just hear how she says it. We need to bathe in bleach after this. Yep.
Not physically in the room with that child, but online abuse occurs because there is a demand for it. If you put your eyes on child abuse and pornography, you are a child molester. You are an abuser. You create the demand for it.
Yeah, you create the demand for contactless crime. You see?
Nowadays, in this day and age, in this technological explosion, that we really don't know how it's affecting our community. We don't. It's too early. We don't know how it's going to be in 50 years, whether we'll be going, oh, it was great what happened with the internet, whether we'll be like, that was the end of civilization if we knew it. But what we do know is having this information about just how far and wide child sexual exploitation, child abuse, child pornography, and so on and so forth is, then we have to think about how we keep our children safe online. We really do. The fact that I've told you these statistics today should really inform you that as a community, as parents, as educators, as social workers, psychologists, therapists, and anybody who has contact with kids, we need to be helping them to understand just how dangerous the internet can be as far as breaching their safety. So much of this pornography during lockdown was actually created by teenagers and children in their bedrooms, not knowing that the images they were sending were to predators who were then going to use that to sell to many, many other predators.
That's the thing. That's why I call it feeding the beast, because they don't know. You know, they're being kind of coaxed into something, and then they don't realize that those pictures are going to literally be sold to hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands. I don't know. Are there millions? I hope not. I don't know, of these predators.
There are so many things that we can do, from making sure that our computers have safety options, that we actually choose the materials our kids are able to see, that we track their activity, that we make sure that we check in regularly to see what they are doing online. I used to check my kids' phones when they were too young, as far as I was concerned, to have the responsibility for them. So until they hit 15, I would spot check, and I was glad, because on one occasion I found that definitely somebody was trying to groom my oldest boy, who at the time was like 14. They wanted him to be the best friend, to be the only person they trusted. You know, I know that language. And whilst it didn't eventuate in anything terrible happening to him, I think if I hadn't seen that, who knows?
Thank you for, I'm sorry for pausing Emma on that, like with the eyes closed the whole time. Sorry. Silent Burma says she means the viewer is contactless, but their viewing fuels the industry of perverted psychosis. Exactly. That's what I mean by feed the beast. It means fuel, adding what? I just say feed the beast. To me, that makes sense, because it's just like feeding this frenzy, which we don't want to. You got to starve that, to stop that. I just mean some people sit there behind their computers and they're like, but I didn't do anything wrong. I'm just looking or just paying for pictures, like maybe with Libby. I mean, that's feeding the demand, you know? Thank you for clarifying that.
It's up to us to know this information, to recognize that these monsters, they reside behind screens, they reside in our neighborhoods, they reside in our churches, in our schools, they reside everywhere that children exist. And the only real way that we can keep those children safe is to inform them of what they should be able to expect from the adults around them, and know that we are a safe space who will believe them if they ever come with information that we need to know. Aside from that, I think making this video is important because we need to realize that in the Western world, whilst not everyone is safe, and some of you listening to this video will have been sexually molested and been victims of child sexual abuse, and I am so sorry for that. I know this area so personally, so I know the damage that it does to every human being that it impacts on. And no child should ever go through it. But in the Western world, ultimately, we have much better catch frames for support. They're not great, but they exist. But in places like the Philippines and Thailand, India, and many other places, children are fully at risk because they don't have money to eat food. They don't have families who can support them. They don't have a world that they should deserve to inhabit. And so the more that we can think as communities, as societies, how we can help make a change to those individuals, whether that's making sure we give money to charities that directly give that money to kids, or whether we get involved ourselves in fundraising and align ourselves with particular orphanages and organisations that we can directly impact on them. There are so many things that we can do to bring better life to those children and young people. More than anything, we can talk about it. We can talk about it openly and honestly. We can have difficult conversations with people to spread the word that this kind of thing happens. We can discuss the fact that the deep dark web exists. We can ultimately remind people that even those monsters who hide behind screens from their anonymous positions, who believe that they will never be brought to justice, often do and will be. And it's just a matter of time. Because the more sophisticated that these child molesters become, the more sophisticated their technology, you bet your bottom dollar that there's some teenage genius now coming up the ranks, feeling that this kind of abuse is reprehensible, creating technology that you or I could probably only dream of creating, that one day will make sure that it infects every single one of those computers of those individuals who think they're so safe, and eventually draw that net so tight that they won't even have breathing space. Until that happens though, it's so important that we talk openly and honestly about child molestation and abuse. We let victims speak honestly and openly about how it affected them, and we stop pretending that this kind of situation doesn't play out. The dark web exists, the deep dark web exists, and as I said, films like Hostel, I don't watch them because that stuff's real. For some people, that's genuinely how their life ends. Thank you so much for joining me.
And we thank Emma that we could show that clip, right? I also disagree with it being called CP. It should be called CSA, right? Because CP, yeah, no, we need some new terminology here. Wow. Well, I hope that you guys are okay. I mean, these topics are actually very difficult to talk about, but I hope that in sharing this information and sharing, again, the tip line, a rerun of the case, that I just really hope that this case can be solved, that there will be justice for Abby and Libby, that the families can get closure. I mean, they've been so amazing. Like Becky Patty's on Twitter every day, as I say, saying, today's the day. Today is the day. Today is the day that they're going to find out who killed Abby and Libby. Man, and I really hope they do. Yeah, CP implies consent, but then there's this issue of revenge porn too, right? And that's not consenting either, but that's also called that. You know what I mean? But yeah, it implies consent and should absolutely be rephrased. I agree with you. Okay, so I just want to make sure I've covered everything. yeah, I've said on the podcast, on Murder Sheet podcast, I give them props as well for saying we're going to refer to it as child SA and exploitation. I mean, yeah, CSA and exploitation makes a lot more sense than CP. Thank you so much, Erin. Yeah, but necessary. Yeah, it's very difficult, but very necessary. I do want to say that oftentimes I'm like, ee, when people share pictures of their children online because they mean so well. You know, if people are like, oh, look at my new baby, or like, look at this, it's like, just be careful because you don't know how sinister the eyes that are looking at that is. If you are going to do that, definitely have a private account. Please don't share your children's pictures online because there are so many predators just lurking. And they don't need explicit pictures. Sometimes they just want pictures. You know what I mean? Oh, it's so creepy. My word. Batman's world. Hello, Benji. I drew the Delphi bridge. Okay. Oh, yes. You remember that quote, huh? Carter, I want to sit down with Becky and Mike, etc. and tell them we did it. We collectively did it. Yeah, CSA or exploitation. I would say we should say CSA. So child SA rather than CP. You know, CP makes it sound like it's something people are attracted to, and of course they are, but we must call it what it is. It's monstrous, and yeah, CSA is much, much better. Thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. If you haven't yet subscribed and you are not yet a Grizzly, please do that. Join us for the next episode. If you hit the bell, you'll know when I'm going live next or what I'm uploading next. I make a lot of content, of course, for you guys. I'm very passionate about sharing true crime information and definitely the lessons that we can learn from it. That's kind of always my motive, is like, what can we learn from this? If you haven't yet watched the episode that I launched for Gabby Petito's birthday, it was supposed to be her birthday, of course. She would have turned 23 on Saturday. But really the episode is about coercive control. It's very important, like, to just learn about that. If you've ever been in that, there could be some red flags, either for yourself that you can spot or some of your loved ones. So very passionate about information like that. And I love the way Emma said it as well. And yes, we got to be very, very careful, number one, and make sure that we starve all that. The demand cannot be fed. If there's someone in your life that you know that's consuming this type of content and just say, well, I'm not doing anything, well, call them out. They can't do that because they're feeding the demand. It is absolutely horrendous. I really hope that you guys are okay. I hope that you'll have a wonderful afternoon or evening. I thank you so much for being here, and I will definitely see you in the next one. Okay?